Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 11th of July, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index. Dollar actually starting to climb through. The big news is the trade wars intensifying with China at the moment, and the dollar is actually climbing higher. Euro just weakening through the cloud, so dollar strength gaining, and we're seeing that really in the Japanese yen. Yesterday was a big day. The dollar has fallen back overnight, but is recovering, still bullish above the cloud, and turning to long-term bullish on the weekly chart as well. So we are seeing just that general strengthening in the dollar. Sterling a little bit weaker, just struggling on the short-term chart, and of course medium-term still bearish, sitting at 132.75. Looking at sterling against the euro, increasing a little bit, and against the Swiss franc also just much the same picture. Against the Aussie dollar, sterling is actually climbing back to that 179 level, so looking a little bit more bullish short term. Bitcoin was uh, down very heavily yesterday and continuing to look bearish on all three time frames. So we've got downside targets really on the long-term charts to look to, back to around the 5,000 mark. We're sitting at 6,300, 5,200, 5,600. So good, anywhere between sort of 10 and 17% downside there. US markets were fairly strong yesterday. We saw the S&P up a third of a percent and looking the best it's looked for a good couple of months. The Nasdaq pushing higher still, again up less than the S&P, up just 0.1%, and the Dow was up 0.6%, looking stronger as well. And the broader based Russell 2000 index was actually down 0.5%, so we're just seeing quite a mixed picture there. The futures are down quite heavily this morning. The S&P future down 0.7%. The Nasdaq E-mini down over 1%. So it does suggest that the market will open lower. Looking at the UK market, it was very flat yesterday. Expected to open lower again this morning. And the mid caps also looking better on the short-term chart, but again, this US-China trade war will have an effect. Looking at the DAX, we were up yesterday, but again, expect markets to fall quite heavily in Europe today, and the CAC Quarant, much the same picture. Looking at Japan, overnight down 0.8%, bearish on all three time frames. Well, bearish in medium and short term. The long term is still just holding on. The Hang Seng Index down 1.5%, hit more heavily by this Chinese US-Chinese trade wars, of course, and the Shanghai market, which we've been bearish about for quite some time, down nearly 2%. So looking pretty bearish as well. And then the Sensex, the Indian market, was fairly flat, so relatively unscathed by the turmoil on that. The Aussie market down about 2/3% as well. Crude oil, Brent sitting at 78.30, so looking quite strong at the moment. It was at 79.50 at one point yesterday, so has come back a bit, but nudging that $80 mark. And WTI sitting also bullish above the cloud, sitting at nearly $74, so looking pretty strong. US nat gas, not much action here, just sitting at $2.78. So again, not much going on there. Gold falling back to the 1250 level, back into bearish territory on the short-term chart, and silver also just moving into bearish territory as well. Taking a look at 10-year bond yields, we'll see quite a deterioration to 2.84%. Still holding on to the bullish short-term chart, but that medium-term picture just turning a little bit bearish. So the 3% bond yields that we've been seeing last month and the month before, looking like it's going to struggle to get back to those levels for a while. Apple shares were yesterday down very slightly, but still looking bullish on all three time frames. Amazon, which has had an amazing run over the last year, was continued up 0.25%. Google, which has been lagging most tech tech stocks has actually down 0.1%, and Facebook holding on to the $200 mark. News in the UK this morning that they will be fined probably won't affect the share price that much. And then last of all, Microsoft just pushing forward up through $102, so just managing to just push higher up 0.25%. But tech stocks look set to sell off quite sharply today, so will be interesting to see that. Keep an eye on the markets. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.